Welcome back to another session on Microsoft Flight Simulator. We are here at Victor Victor Tango Sierra tonight in Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam, on our way to the city of Sanya in the Hainan province. It's a beach resort locale, home to many extremely high-end luxury resorts and hotels. And it will be a relatively short flight tonight, just under 2 hours block time, and even less time in the air. Tonight we actually have ATC coverage here in Vietnam. I believe Tower is online and Center is online, so we'll actually be able to get our IFR clearance, taxi routing, takeoff clearance, and clearance up to our cruising altitude, which will be a lot of fun. We haven't had ATC in a few flights, so hopefully I am not too rusty. But what I'm not rusty in is getting our plane ready to go. Before we jump in, we are Vietnam Airlines 9084 tonight, and we are here in Ho Chi Minh City. This is freeware scenery for the airport, Victor Victor Tango Sierra. As you can see, there's a few bugs, maybe with the latest SIM update 8, but half of the jetway is missing on some of these, so we have a pretty cool, just like floating jetway. I'm going to pretend that people are just being shot up through this tube here, and then they walk onto the plane all the way on. But on the inside, no bugs. Everything looks great. We are in the latest experimental version of the fly-by-wire A320. There's always a bit of a risk using the experimental version, but I think it's always worth it to get the latest features, and we'll see if we notice anything different or new or updated. But to get started, we are cold and dark. Let's get things turned on. So we'll get our batteries online and connect to external power since it's available. There, the bird comes to life. We'll turn our nav and logo lights to let folks on the ground know that we're here. Get some of our integrated lights on. No smoking signs on auto, arm the emergency lights. We'll keep seatbelt signs off, and we'll keep fuel pumps off for now, since we're going to refuel just a little bit. We will get the crew supply on, we will get ground control on, and we will start aligning the IRSs for our navigation. Next up, we'll do our fire tests before we start the APU, so we'll start with the APU. And what we're checking for here is just the appropriate ECAM messages displaying right there, which is pretty cool. And then finally, cargo smoke test. Alright, all looks good, so let's get that APU started. 1, 2, and 3. And once the APU comes online, we can get boarding going. But while we wait for the APU to spool up, we'll get our screens brightened up. It's a nice sunny day, it seems. So we'll get these nice and bright. Set this to hectopascals. Get the backlighting up a little bit and the light on the FMC there. Set up constraints. We'll set the QNH and the FMC parameters for takeoff once we get our clearance so we know exactly what we're looking at. But we will turn off this extra flight director and these extra screens since we won't need it tonight. Coming down here, landing gear is indicating down, the lever is down, anti-skid system is on, clock is correct, it's just about 1 a.m. UTC. We'll get these screens brightened up a bit. APU is available. We can confirm that here, it's generating power. So we'll jump up here, turn the APU bleed on, and we'll take a break from our initial flows just to get boarding going. So hopping into our weights and balances menu, this is where we load the payload for the fly-by-wire. So we'll request data from SimBrief. We have 162 passengers on our flight plan tonight, and we'll get boarding started. Now I've increased the speed of boarding just because it was taking way too long, and I like sticking to realism, but I mean I was twiddling my thumbs waiting for the boarding to finish. Alright, continuing with our checks here, brake pressure check, cockpit oxygen check, oil quantity check, hydrogen fluid check. Coming down the panel here, thrust levers are functional in the idle position. We're on Unicom. We will be tuning to get our ATIS just now, and then we'll be tuning to tower to get our clearance. We'll bring up the lighting here as well. Weather system is off, predictive wind shear system is off, engine masters are off, engine mode is set to normal. We're going to squawk 7000 until we get our squawk code, because we'll have one tonight. ATC on standby, TCAS on standby, all looks good. And coming down just to finish this off, cockpit door is currently open. Ground spoilers are disarmed and retracted, flaps are up, rudder trim is neutral, and parking brake is on. So all those initial checks look great. So let's hop over here to our flight pad and let's brief our OFP, operating flight plan. There's our weather, although we will get our ATIS information from the box. Actually, before we check the OFP, let's get our weather request in. So here, go to ATIS. We want our departure ATIS for Victor Victor Tango Sierra. And send that request. And we'll just wait for the company message sign to come up here. And we'll get our ATIS information. Should just take a couple of seconds. In the meantime, we'll get fueling started. So we will do a quick pre-brief of our operating flight plan. So just to check that all the primary parameters are correct, we are departing Victor Victor Tango Sierra, heading to Zulu Juliet Sierra Yankee, Sanya Phoenix International. Our alternate tonight is Zulu Juliet Hotel Kilo. We are Vietnam Airlines 984, cost index 15, flight level 370, high tropopause, and a light tailwind of 12 knots. Block time in the air, block time is 1:55, an hour and 55 minutes, but block time in the air is only an hour and 20 minutes. The tailwind's going to help a little bit, but should be a very quick flight for us tonight. Alright, what else we got to pay attention to? Shear rate, 2.3, so that's moderate. I would say that's we're not expecting heavy turbulence on that flight. I think anything north of 4 is when you need to get a little concerned about turbulence. Looking at departure, I'm going to start prepping our craft acronym. So this is how I like to record our IFR clearance. Oh, boarding's ready completed. Look at that. So CRAFT, that stands for clearance, route, altitude, frequency, and transponder. Those are all the pieces of information you should expect on your IFR clearance. So we're expecting to be cleared to Sanya. Our routing will be, well, we're expecting it via the entry to Foxtrot departure, so I'll just put that as a placeholder. So
Ladies
if
and gentlemen from the flight deck, on behalf of myself, your captain, the first officer, cabin crew, I'd like to take this time to welcome you aboard our flight. We're just wrapping up some paperwork up front here and waiting to receive final numbers from the ground crew, then we'll be on our way. Flight attendants will be coming through the cabin shortly with a very important safety briefing. We do ask that you give them your full, undivided attention as they review the safety operations of this Airbus aircraft. We do appreciate your business having you aboard this flight. If there's anything we do to make your flight any more enjoyable, please don't hesitate to ask. Welcome aboard.
I feel like the fly-by-wire guys made that a lot louder than it was before. That is a part of the new, one of the later fly-by-wire updates is the voice packs. But yes, so we have clearance to Sanya, routing, we're expecting the entry to Foxtrot departure. Altitude, we'll just record what they want us, our initial altitude climb out to be. Frequency, we can predict, so we will be getting our clearance from Victor Victor Tango Sierra approach. That's what we'll be tuning to. But they'll probably, we'll probably stick with them. We're going to stick with them until they transfer us to center. So I will just write down 125.5 T for tower. A for approach, because they're going to be acting as tower. And center. The 2 centers online. I'm just going to check on the VATSIM SimAware site to see, because there are 2 center controllers. So we could get to we could be transferred to either one. Oh, but they look to be on the same frequency. That's interesting. But we'll just write that down. 132.35 for center. And transponder code will be whatever they decide to give to us. So that's just a little pre-prep to make copying that information down a bit easier. Coming back to our operating flight plan. That all looks good. I saw in the ATIS that we're expecting 2.5 left, so that's why I have that in our flight plan, just again to make that easier. Looking at fuel, our alternate is not too far away from Sanya, so I'm just going to take this fuel as given. I'll give a quick peek to weather at the destination, just to make sure there isn't anything that could make the approach challenging. But no, cab okay, so that's ceiling and visibility okay. Pretty warm, no significant weather, and nothing in the forecast from what I can see. Still learning how to read these, but not seeing anything that is concerning. Okay, so we'll just take this block fuel as given. So 6224. Pump that in here. And get refueling going as well. Okay. So, at this point, our ATIS should have come in. So, and our IRSs are aligned. Great. So, received messages. There's our ATIS. And this is pulling directly from VATSIM. I'll go ahead and print it so we can just reference it. And the time is at 30 UTC, so it's just over half an hour old. So, that should be current by the time we get our clearance. So ATIS information Sierra. So when we ask for a clearance, we'll want to mention we have information Sierra. So I'll go ahead and write out what I expect to say. So we want to call, I guess, Tansan approach. Or Tansan Nhat terminal. Let's call it Santon terminal. Make it easy on ourselves. We are Vietnam 9084. Any instructions? Normally we like to announce the type of aircraft we are, so we'll just call it type A320neo. Probably also want to report what stand we're located at, so we'll pull up the airport chart real quick. And there should be an airport info chart that looks like it. They don't really have stand information, but let's see. We can reference somewhere here. Should mention what chart we can reference for the stands. They're not seeing it. Although here we are. 9 Alpha. Ah, here we go. So I believe we're stand 2-1. Let's just pop out and confirm visually. There's one stand to our right before the end of the building, so yes, I'm going to say we're stand 2-1. Requesting IFR clearance to Sanya, and we have information Sierra. So before we make that call, I just want to check the rest of the ATIS information. So 2.5 left, that's what we're expecting. Winds are 140 at 6 knots, variable between 90 and 220. Visibility is good. Temperature is 282.22. QNH 1008. And at this point, we will get that into our glare shield. 1008. So, okay, so now I think we're just about ready to get our clearance. I am going to use Navigraph to help just recall what we're expecting, and I'll also have various departures for 2.5 left available in case we're given a different departure. We should also tune to tower, or approach in this case, 125.5. And activate that. Alright, so we are the only ones in the airspace, so I'm just going to announce that we're here and make sure that they're ready to receive. Tan Terminal, Vietnam Airlines 9084 Type A320neo at stand 21. Requesting IFR clearance to Sanya. We have information, Sierra.
Vietnam 984, very good morning. This is from Terminal. You are cleared to your destination, Sanya, Phoenix. Cadum 2 Delta departure. Partner transition. Runway 25 left. Climb 10,000 feet initially. Expect level 370. Squawk 5770.
Alright, so that's a different departure. I think he said Tano 2 Delta to Padma transition. So let's take a look at that. As cleared to Sanya Phoenix via the Tano 2 Delta Padma transition. Runway 25 left, expect initial climb out of 10,000, expect 37,000. Squawk 5770. Vietnam Airlines 9084.
Vietnam 984, confirm Cadum 2 Delta. Kilo Alpha Delta Uniform 2 Delta departure with Padma transition.
That is Cato 2 Delta departure via the Padma transition.
Cato 2 Delta is correct. Your feedback is all correct. Unit 1008. Advance ready for push and start.
We'll call for push and start. Thank you. Vietnam Airlines 9084.
Thank you.
So now we need to find the Cato 2 Delta. It's always a bit harder when it's not your actual flight plan. But there it is. Alright, so we got that in to Padma. And let's get our charts organized. That wasn't too bad, was it? I'm like already sweating. What was wrong with me? Okay. Cato 2... Oh, sorry, that's the Star SIDS. Cadum 2 Delta. Where is this guy? Here it is. And let's just take a look at this. So... Okay, we can make that climb gradient, no problem. Cadum 2 Delta, there's no textual description of this, but it looks like flyouts to Tango Sierra 616, hard right, and then yeah, pretty straightforward. Some altitude restrictions, but we'll let ATC kind of navigate us through it, and we'll go to the Padma transition over there. Okay, so let's get that programmed into the McDo. First, we'll just make sure everything is set on the data page. The IRSs are all showing nav, that's correct. Sorry, not clear. And we have LEAP engines, we have the latest AirX cycle, that all looks good. Let's head to init A. We'll submit init request. Make sure this is all correct. Victor Victor Tango Sierra, Zulu Juliet Sierra Yankee. That is our correct alternate. Vietnam Airlines 984, Cosmic X15, flight level 370, which matches our clearance. Tropopause, I like to pull it from the OFP. So we'll just get the actual number from here, because this is, I believe, a flight average. So 57114. And I actually have no idea how this is calculated in the box, so it's something to figure out at some point. But it's fine to take it from the flight plan. Next up, we'll go to the actual flight plan page, and now that we know our departure, we'll be departing via 25 left per the clearance, and the... Did I pass it? Oh, CADU, there we go. CADU to Delta departure. Via the PATMA transition. Insert that. And we'll just make sure that looks correct on the plan. So that is our initial turn there, that right-hand turn that we saw on the chart. Another right-hand turn, some of our altitude restrictions from the chart as well. That all looks good. CADM and then PATMA, and then we are on our way. As filed. Great. So that all looks good. We'll worry about our descent and arrival once we're in the air, because we'll have time. And let's go to the RADNAVs page. There is no RADNAVs for the departure that's necessary for us, but we will brief an emergency return. So we'll anticipate a 25 left return, and let's just make sure we choose the one that we want here. I think the Zulu will be fine. I think the that's a circling VOR. And what's this? All right, what's the difference between these two? That one has a hold. This one's straight in. So let's go with the hold, because that might be a part of our... Well, let's see if the emergency transitions are different here. Between holding pattern versus... This one just has a hold at 10B. Okay, so let's we'll use this to brief. We're not going to need the emergency procedure. It's more just for practice. I just heard the radio. Is there someone? No, it's just us. Okay, so that is all good for our charts then. Okay, so for this, if we're going to follow the emergency procedure, we'll want to track the Tango Sierra Hotel VOR. And I think that will be sufficient. Excellent. Next up is the secondary flight plan, but that is inop in the mod right now, so we'll go to init B, where we'll do our weights and balance. So since we're done with boarding and refueling, just double checking, yep, refueling is done as well. That should match our flight plan. 59.30 fuel weight, and that is correct. We'll put in a block fuel here of 6.2. And we'll put in our wind prediction, so tailwind of 12. T12, and then we'll put in our reserve, our alternate fuel, and our final reserve from down here. So contingency is 0.6, alternate is 1.3, just rounding up, and final reserve is 1. So 0.6, 1.3, and 1. 0.6, 1.3 for the alternate, and 1. Giving us a final calc of extra fuel time of 8 minutes, a little tight, but I think, again, since our alternate is not too far away with our final reserve being rather equivalent and the weather being fine, I think that is satisfactory for tonight. All right, so next up is performance. This is my favorite page because if you guys have watched the channel before, I love doing flex takeoffs. I tried a new calculator last time. I found it to be far too conservative. So I'm going back to my current Excel spreadsheet for the A320neo performance calcs. And the spreadsheet basically takes into account runway parameters and weather to figure out what are the ideal parameters for flex takeoff. And if you're not familiar with the flex takeoff, that is just taking off with less than full thrust. And the idea behind flex is to not overstress the engines and extend the useful life of the engines. Because if you're not pushing the engines as hard, they will last longer, they will not break down, they'll be in better shape between maintenance cycles. So airlines like the use of flex takeoffs when the conditions allow. So to start, let's get some of our runway parameters in. We know we're taking off 25 left, and that is pointing at a heading of 249. We'll need that for relative wind. Elevation of the runway is 32 on one side, 18 on the other, so call it 25 on average. Length is 38.28 in meters. Wind information we'll get from our ATIS here. So we have winds 140 at 6. Outside air temperature is 28 degrees. QNH is 1008. Conditions are dry. Takeoff weight, we'll go back to our operating flight plan for takeoff weights. We're expecting 65 tons. And we are going to have our packs off. And takeoff center of gravity we'll get from the fuel prediction page is... wait a minute, why am I not seeing it? Something went wrong. Fuel prediction. That's so strange. For some reason, the fuel prediction page is just the... yeah, normally this looks different. This might be a bug. Yeah, fuel prediction page no longer works. Let's see if any of these other buttons are mapped to fuel prediction. Nope. Oh, that's frustrating. Okay, so we'll just assume that our zero fuel weight center of gravity is approximate, so 24.6 to get our trim. This is the risk of using the experimental version. It is a shame. Okay, no worries. We do have our flex data though, so go ahead and put that in. We are taking off with flaps 1 and a trim of 0.8 up. Flex temp from the calculator is 67 degrees. Transition altitude, we can check real quick, 18,000 feet on the chart. Transition altitude 18,000 feet, that checks. Thrust reduction and acceleration altitude and engine out acceleration altitude are correct because they're about 1,500 feet above the runway. And V speeds from the calculator, 150 for V1, 151 for rotation speed, and 152 for V2. So nice and high takeoff speeds. We'll be taking advantage of that long runway. So that is all set. Alrighty, so let's do our before start checklist to the line. Cockpit prep is complete, fuel message is sent, gear pins and covers will be removed once we attach the tug. Signs are on and auto, so we'll get the strobes on. We'll get seatbelt signs on, we'll get fuel pumps on as well, since refueling is done. IRSs are showing nav fuel quantity. We have 6220,000 kilograms. Takeoff data is set. Bower ref is set. Before start checks to the line. So let's get that tug attached. We'll plan our pushback using the latest pushback mod we have here. And we'll just push back over here. Nicely on this line. That looks good. Enter. And let's request that pushback.
Cockpit to ground. This is ground. Stand by.
And we'll do the rest of our checklist. Before start checklist, build the line. Oh, actually, we'll do that once we are cleared for start and push. So we'll call approach.
Okay, sir. The bypass pin is installed. All doors and hatches closed and all ground equipment is removed.
The parking brakes are set. You may lift.
Parking brake set. Lifting the aircraft.
We are cleared for start and push.
It's not true. We're not cleared yet.
Cleared for push start. Please release parking brake.
We'll release it when we actually get cleared. So we'll give it the call. 10 Sanya Terminal, Vietnam Airlines 984 is ready for start and push.
Parking brake.
Vietnam 984, squawk 5770, please.
Please release parking brake.
Squawking 5770, now ready for start and push. Vietnam Airlines 984.
Vietnam 984, thank you very much. Push and start approved, facing north, QNH 1009.
We'll face north, Vietnam Airlines 984.
Please release parking brake.
Let's make sure that's correct.
Please release parking brake.
There we go.
Parking brakes are released.
Commencing pushback. You can start the engines in sequence.
Yeah, we'll start in the sequence.
All right, set to ignition. APU bleed is on. Engine 2 start. Get that timer on. That pushback is so nice. Get that checklist we forgot to do. So beacon's on, thrust levers are idle, parking brake is off. Four-star checklist complete.
Once again, we'd like to welcome you on board. Your safety is our top priority, so we appreciate a few minutes of your attention while we demonstrate safety.
And let's get our next frequency in 132.35.
Please fasten your seatbelt and insert the flat metal edge into the buckle and pull on the straps tight. The release should lift the top flap of the buckle. Please keep your seatbelt back and low and tight across your lap when the seatbelt sign is off and have it visible.
Engine 1 start.
Your life vest is in a pouch under your seat. It instructs let it through tear open the pouch with the vest and put over your head. Wrap the strap around your waist. Secure the buckle and pull the strap tight. Are you ready to
Okay, pushback completed. Please set your parking brake.
While going into the tubes on both sides.
Parking brake set.
Your light on the shoulder will turn
Parking brake set. Lowering aircraft.
inside the aircraft. This Airbus A320 is an emergency exit.
Ground. Startup is complete. You may disconnect.
Roger. Good engine start. Cleared to disconnect. See you at the side. Have a good flight.
Holding position waiting for the visual. Thank you and goodbye.
Please take a moment out of locate your close sector and remember APU behind you. If there is a change in cabin pressure, more oxygen mask will drop from overhead. Firmly pull the mask towards your special.
All right. Wait for that good engine start.
Your last bands around your head and tighten the straps on both sides. Even though the bags are not split, oxygen will be flowing. Be sure to put your mask on first before helping others. I will let you know when it's normal.
You can hear the safety briefing in the background.
Through the cabin to make sure when you're ready for departure, you can help us by making sure your seatbelt is fastened. Your seat back is upright, your cable is stowed, and all tight.
All right, we have 2 good engine starts, so we'll get that APU bleed off. We'll get the APU shut down. We'll start preparing for taxi, so taxi lights on. And we'll do our after start checklist. Anti-ice is not required. ECAM status is checked. Oh, we need to go back to normal mode. So ECAM is checked. Pitch trim is up 0.8 if I recall. So get that up to 0.8. And rudder trim is set to 0, and it is. So while we're here, we'll just do our flight control test. So full left, full right, neutral, full down, full up, neutral, rudder disconnect, full left, full right, and neutral. That's all set. We'll set flaps for takeoff, arm spoilers, flaps to 1. And let's brief our taxi routes before we request a taxi. 25 left. So not crazy about these routings. Maybe the parking stands is a bit clearer. Oh yeah, this is better. So, looking at can't really tell what we're on. Are we on Papa 2? Zulu 2? This is actually really hard to read. Let's see. Are there specific taxiing charts here? Construction tracks. Oh, here we go. Pushback and taxiing. No, that's specific. It's not really routing. Alright, so we'll try to interpret this. Let's just say we're going to go to 25 left via Sierra 1. We'll see what he says. Let's get the name right because I always forget. Nhat Terminal. Nhat Terminal, Vietnam Airlines 9084 is ready for taxi to 25 left.
Vietnam 9084, taxi 05, Sierra, then 01, runway 25 left.
Taxi via Sierra 5, Sierra 1 for 25 left, Vietnam Airlines 9084. Alright, pretty easy. So Sierra 5 down Sierra to Sierra 1. We'll just keep this handy. And let's get ready to go. Just get my rudder pedals set up. Parking brake is off. Let's get some power. And away we go. I'll use my rudders here for the straightaway, but I do have an extra joystick here on my left that will control the tiller for me. That will give us almost 90 degrees of turn. And we'll continue to configure as we go towards the runways. So auto brake to max. We'll do our before takeoff checklist to the line. So flight controls are checked, flight instruments are checked, briefing is confirmed, flap setting is set, V-speeds and flex temp are set. We can see that in the ECAM. ATC is set. We'll notify the cabin now. It's a little early, but why not? And takeoff config. ECAM memo no blue. And we'll see. Can we get tracking on here? We can. So Echo 8. This looks like Sierra 5. But we definitely don't want to cross that threshold. That's the runway. So these signs might not be correct. Which would be a ding for the scenery. Yeah, because this is Sierra. We're definitely on Sierra. I don't see Echo anywhere. Yeah, so I think those signs are just incorrect. But again, this is what happens when you use freeware scenery. Alright, so at this point, let's get our weather system on, predictive wind shear system on. We'll just watch this to make sure we're approaching Sierra 1 appropriately. Yep, that should be the next entryway.
Vietnam 984, runway 25 left cleared, full takeoff at 110 degrees, 8 knots.
Clear for takeoff, 25 left, Vietnam Airlines 984. So if we're clear for takeoff, then we'll do a quick run up and checklist when we get to Sierra 1. Slow down a little bit because we're going a little fast for the turn. Alright, so we'll slow up here. Make sure everything is set. That's 25 left. So runway lights are, landing lights are coming on, takeoff lights, TCAS, ATC and TCAS sets. So
please prepare for takeoff.
Before takeoff, checklist build the line. Takeoff runway is confirmed. Cabin crew is advised. TCAS is on TARA. Engine mode is on normal. Packs are coming off for the flex takeoff. And before takeoff checklist complete. Here we go. And we'll just try to maximize all the runway we can get. And takeoff, nose down by 50% and 1 to 50%. Engines are stable. Man flex SRS runway. Knots. V1, rotate. Positive rate, gear up. Those packs back online. 1, 2. And get those nose lights off.
Vietnam 984 in a contact, follow SID, cloud flight level 190.
Cloud flight level 190, Vietnam Airlines 984. Thrust climb, climb. So speeding up to S speed, at which point we will retract the flaps. Speed check, flaps up. Disarm the spoiler. And at this point, I'll engage the autopilot. And now we're accelerating to 250 knots. Just make sure there weren't any speed restrictions on this particular takeoff, and there are none, just altitude restrictions. So we'll go for yeah, manage altitude. So question I have here is, I believe depending on where you are in the world, when they give you altitude clearances, in some parts of the world I think it's assumed that you climb via the SID, and in other parts of the world it's not. And I cannot for the life of me right now remember which is which. So if he instructs me to climb to flight level 190, we're here in Vietnam, do I climb to 190 adhering to the restrictions of the SID? Or do I follow the SID? Because I believe in North America, if I'm not mistaken, if they want you to climb via the SID, they say climb via the SID. I think here it might just be assumed. Or I have that backwards. We'll see if he shouts at me. Alright, after takeoff checklist, landing gear is up, flaps retracted, packs are on, bow ref is set. We have a high transition altitude, so we'll be on local QNH for a bit. Alright, approaching 10,000 feet, we'll do our 10,000 feet checks, landing lights can come off. Seatbelt signs will stay on for now, and we'll go to airport. Actually, you know what? I'll stay on constraints for a bit longer since there are altitude constraints in our vicinity. So in 6 miles, we're going to pass the 11,000 restriction, and then we'll be unrestricted to climb further. So I'm going to assume the controller won't even notice if we're following the SID or not. Speed out constraints. In 2 miles we'll continue climbing. Hopefully he doesn't notice. We may be the only airplane in the vicinity, so he might be watching us like a hawk. We'll see. Alright, come on, let's pass, let's pass. Let's go up. Let's go up. 0.5 miles. And thrust climb, climb, up we go. No one noticed, no one cared. I'll just make sure to look that up when we're done. Alright, let's relieve the cabin crew. At this point we're unrestricted, so I'll switch to airport. And let's give us a bit more of an expansive view of our departure here. So Kadam, and then via the Patma transition. And there's Patma. And then we're on our way to Sanya. And we should be leaving approach. Oh, and there's another plane on the ground. Nice. We'll be with terminal for a bit while longer. Probably towards the end of the SID is probably when we'll transition to center. Or control, as they call it here. Ho Chi Minh Control. That's easier to remember than Tan Son Nhat Terminal. We'll get the seatbelt signs off at this point because we weren't expecting any turbulence anyway. Joys of VATSIM, friends. I am sweating. This guy, we can see on the control pad here, he's going for his solo S3 validation.
Vietnam 6, Taxi Vietnam 984, contact Ho Chi Minh 13235. Good day.
Over to 13235. Thanks so much for your service tonight. Cheers. Vietnam Airlines 984.
Cheers, and have a safe night.
Center of control. Always forget. Ho Chi Minh Control, Vietnam Airlines and 984 is with you, passing 175,000 for 19,000.
Vietnam 984, Ho Chi Minh Control, good morning. Continue climb maintain flight level 370.
Climb maintain 370, Vietnam Airlines 984. So up to 370. And go to standard QNH at this point, since we're above transition. Oh, that changed quite a bit. I should say flight level 175. That's how I should have said that. 175,000. Well, that sounds like an idiot. But this is why we practice. This is why we practice. And this is also why I stream. One, for you guys to call me out on my shit. And two, on YouTube, so I can actually go back and look at these things and learn from my mistakes. Take a look outside real quick. Oh, that's pretty. And this is a nice livery. Just kind of like screams like tropical and warm. Lovely. Alright, so we've been cleared up to cruise, which should make radio chatter simple and to a minimum from here on out. We will have coverage most of the way, it looks like. They may even clear our descent, depending on when our top of descent is. So we will... actually, we could see that for ourselves in our flight plan. So if we come here to the routing detail, so top of climb, top of descent is before the Sanya FIR, and Zulu Juliet Sierra Alpha. Is that the control boundary that we're in? Is the question. Unclear, actually. Another way we could check this, we could look at Navigraph. And we could see the different zones here. So, oh, I see. Yes, so our top of descent will be before we leave this airspace. It will be ahead of Bunta. I'm assuming this is Bunta here, yes. So yeah, I think center will clear us for descent. We'll have to pay attention, because if they're not paying attention to us and we get closer to our top of descent point, we can just radio in and say we're ready for our descent, and they can clear us to a new altitude. Alright. So I'll worry about our descent prep once we're at cruise, because we do have some time. Just looking at the prediction now, we're expected to arrive in just about an hour. That will go down a bit because we will gain speed as we increase altitude, but that's a good benchmark. And I like to start descent prep usually about 40 minutes before predicted departure. So that gives us about 20 minutes to continue our climb, hang out, shoot the shit. And if we're lucky, maybe we'll get some more controllers online as we get closer to Sanya. Just clearing up our rad navs because we don't need that VOR anymore. Get the cruise page on there. This is a fun fact. So it looks like our climb thrust was actually higher than our takeoff thrust, believe it or not. But if I'm not mistaken, I do think climb thrust is optimized for efficiency, based on the cost index you've put in here, and you can kind of like see that reflected here in the box. So we're in a climb, managed indicated airspeed of 209 knots, or Mach 0.78, with a cost index of 1.5. Oh, and fuel prediction works now. It just wasn't working on the ground. Interesting. I wonder why that is. I've never had that problem before. Definitely needed this flight tonight. It's only Tuesday, but I feel like I've worked an entire week already. That is awesome. Never been to Vietnam. But definitely do hope to go one day. So it looks like there are some bumps. You can kind of see by the jiggling out the window, the variables in the speed tape and rate of climb. Doesn't seem too bad. We can check on our flight plan when we can expect to get the heaviest bumps. And well, on the top of the flight plan here, it has max shear rate at top of climb. So as we're approaching top of climb is when it will max out. But we can see at different waypoints along our route as well what the expected shear rate will be, and they're all pretty low for the most part. So there's a bunch of traffic en route to Ho Chi Minh City, so our controller will get some additional action. Let's see if we can expect anyone at Sanya tonight. Nope, looks like it's just us. I'm very excited about this approach because this island, we'll read up on it in a little bit once we get to cruise, but it's a resort island. It's a beach resort island. Belongs to China, the Hainan province. And if you Google Sanya, you see names like Edition, Ritz-Carlton, any of the premium hotel or resort names. There's an Atlantis Sanya, which I didn't even know that they had other Atlantises outside of the Bahamas. So that was interesting. So it seems like a place where the wealthy go to spend money on a beach vacation, and I'm hoping for some fun scenery on the way in. Tried to find custom scenery for Sanya, but could not find it. But I think we're headed to Macau after Sanya. We are, yes. And I did download custom scenery for Macau, so that should look pretty baller once we get there. Alright, looks like we'll get to our cruise in about 5 minutes. And then we'll figure out our top descent marker. There's a hack to do it since the fly-by-wire mod doesn't yet calculate top of descent for you. But there is a neat way around it. Just so bright. So much glare. Sim is running pretty well. Yep, getting 60 frames per second externally. I'm getting about 50, yeah, about 50 frames inside, and that's the fly-by-wire mod. That's all the glass cockpit displays and all the fancy simulation thingies are going on in the background when you're sitting in the cockpit. Approaching Patma, will be officially off the SID. And the flight plan was predicting top of climb whereabouts. Granted, this had us doing a different departure, but it had us reach top of climb just past, yeah, literally just past Patma. Every time I say Patma, I think Padma Lakshmi. That just comes to mind. Hey, Tyler T, how's it going? Sorry, I hope your comment wasn't just hanging around for a while. Almost at top of climb here. And we seem pretty lucky because there's not a ton of controllers online in East Asia at the moment. Looks like Hong Kong is online, Shanghai is online. This is the only control zone online. At Hong Kong we have ground tower. At Shanghai we have approach. That's it. That is it. Even Australia is quiet. Hey, Kriv. Yeah, and I seriously, I was just saying, like, I feel like it's only Tuesday. I feel like I've worked the entire week. I would love to share all the gory details about what's been going on in my professional life, but that just doesn't seem appropriate on Twitch, honestly. But, yeah. But glad to see you're taking a load off on Twitch this evening. Believe it or not, we have ATC coverage as we speak. It's just very quiet airspace. Alright, Mach Alt Star. Yeah. Alright, we are at cruise, friends, so let's start figuring out how we're going to get down. So, per the flight plan, we're flying the CAG-9 Ya. Is that how you say that? Or the CAG-9 Yankee Alpha?
Also, one more reminder to please refrain from congregating to the front galley where the flight deck door is located. Thank you.
Alright, CAG-9 Yankee Alpha. Before we commit to this, I should probably do the diligent thing and just confirm the weather at Zulu Juliet Sierra Yankee to make sure that this runway makes sense. So let's just do that check real quick, because we're not going to have... I don't think control is going to clear us to our star on runway. So let's see. Go ahead, put in a weather request. METAR will get rid of Victor Victor Tango Sierra and request. And let's clean up our charts here. We don't need these guys anymore. Wait for that little ECAM message to show up. Taking its sweet time. There it is. Sheet messages, METAR information for Zulu Juliet Sierra Yankee. And this is recent 1 Zulu, so that's fine. 90 at 3. MPS. Is that... What? Like in physics, that would be meters per second, right? Hold on. I'm Googling this. METAR. MPS. Yeah, meters per second. How's it compare to knots? You just multiply it by 2? Is that? Oh, yeah, it's roughly 2. That's... Alright, anyway, so that's 6 knots and 90. And we're looking at runway 8. That makes sense, so that's fine. We'll do this approach. That's so annoying. Never seen that before. I've always just assumed knots. Knots versus MPS. Approach, runway 8. Please have an ILS. And they do. We're definitely going to do that. Cool. So we're looking for an initial kind of descent restriction. So here, this is very specific. So kind of like between 148 and 985. Let's call it 11,000.
Control, good morning. Go sir 156 with you. Descending to flight level 150.
Nice.
Go by 156, Sanya Control, good morning. Please contact Sanya Terminal on 135.5.
Copy that. Switching to 125.5, Velfare 156.
Nice. Alright, so we'll soup 11,000 just to keep our speed up for a little bit longer. At a gigi. So going to our calculator here. We're currently at 37,000. We want to get to 11,000. We need 82 nautical miles. Let's call it 85. Let's go to our flight plan. Click this doohickey button here. Go to the fixes page. What was it? Agegi? It's a fun one. I love saying waypoint names. They're often just so ridiculous. Alright, 85. We'll draw a radius around that for 85 miles. And let's see, can we see it on our box yet? Yes, we can. So that is our top of descent. And it is right before Bunta, which will be in the controller's airspace. So if he doesn't clear us to descend, we'll just call in ready for descent. And yeah, that's done. We'll double check when we're arriving at 2:45 Zulu. Shit, so that's 40 minutes from now, so we should go ahead and actually just brief our arrival. Let's print out that METAR information with the ridiculous meters per second measurement. Print. And you know what, this is the first Chinese airport we're landing in, so I wonder if that might be a Chinese convention. We'll see if we see MPSs throughout our trip through China. Because looking at the Vietnam ATIS, yeah, it's quoted in knots. Like everywhere else we've been. That's weird. I've been experiencing weird bugs with the latest experimental version. Right now, my camera buttons are not working. There we go. That was weird. Disconcerting. Ah! What is happening? Okay. Alright, so we have our weather. And we do have QNH. Okay, we have all the information we need. That's great. And let's go ahead and brief our arrival. So, the CAG 9 Yankee Alpha Star, we're getting a CAGUC down to 11,000 here, or by ATC. We'll see if ATC gives us instruction. We'll want to be not lower than 3940. That's so specific. By this waypoint, and there is a speed restriction kind of going into the approach. And then moving over to the ILS. Actually, let's just take a look to see where they connect. So, Sierra Yankee 462. Sierra Yankee 462, where do we see that? It may not connect. Yeah, so we'll see how it looks on the box when we program it. But we're likely coming from this direction. That looks like it could be the same hold point. It's hard to identify. Oh, IIF. Okay, yes. So that's the same waypoint, and we'll connect with the approach here. And that looks fairly standard. I think we'll intercept a 2300 final approach fix. Standard 3-degree descent. Minimums look fine. We're going to do the straight-in landing. And we can achieve a gradient minimum of 4%. We'll check to see if we could do a flaps 3 landing again, because that will help with the climb gradient on a missed approach. I'm getting the sense that there might be obstacles, since they do have these climb gradient minimums. And you can see there is some terrain here, so you could assume there might be a mountain or something obstructing. If you look at the missed approach procedure as well, climb straight ahead to 1970 feet and then turn right to Kilo NDB. At 3940. Oh, that's here, Kilo NDB. And then inbound to Sierra Yankee X-Ray VOR. So it's a pretty hard right turn with a max speed to kind of make it nice and tight. Yeah, so let's hope we don't have to go missed, because that might be a pain in the ass. Okay, that's all good to know. Let's get the airport chart as well while we're here. And the parking stands. So we're coming in runway 8. If we're doing flaps 3, we'll probably need more rollout, although this is nice and long, so we could assume like Alpha 5 is probably where we'll pull out. And then take Alpha down to the main apron here. And looking at the parking stands. Yeah, we'll just choose one. What's a nice number? 105. We'll target 105. Cool. Alright, so let's get that program in the box. So going to our flight plan, clicking on the destination, clicking on the arrival, we're going to do the ILS. We chose Yankee for runway 8. ILS 8 Yankee. Was there a Zulu? I didn't see a Zulu chart. Oh, there is a... Oh, it's a Cat 1. Oh, there's the Zulu. That's also Cat 1. And this is... I actually didn't check the category. Okay, yeah, this is fine. Yeah, so the 8 Yankee. And the star we're flying is the CAG 9 Yankee Alpha. There it is, CAG 9 Yankee Alpha. And what are we doing? The coming from Kaguk and via no, not doing via Sierra Yankee X-Ray. E52 Hotel. Not via Alpha. I guess via Hut? Oh, via Alpha. No, that is what we're doing. Okay. So insert. We'll definitely want to check to make sure this looks fine. And again, camera control is lost. Come on. Yeah, I have no camera control. Come on. Can I do anything? What if I manually go out? This is great. This is crazy. Alright, that works. There we go. That's so weird. Hate that. Okay, what were we doing? We were going to check the map. Alright, Bunta, Sagsu, Kaguk, that's where it starts. Am I going backwards? Hold on. Oh, Gegi, that's, there we go. Sierra Yankee 462 to, where's Alpha? Oh, interesting. Interesting. Okay, that does not look right. So let's just do, we'll do 8 Yankee, 9 Alpha, and we'll do Novia and see how that looks. Yeah, that looks way better, right? that just goes to the straight end. So insert. Double check that. Yeah, that looks way better, right? Excellent.
Ocean Control, Vietnam 87010 miles to cut up with you at flight level 190.
Vietnam 870 Control, good morning. Continue to climb maintain flight level 370.
Climb and maintain flight level 370, Vietnam 870.
Alright. So that is that. Looks like we're getting some light bumps. Heading 20 miles from top of descent. Alright, what else do we need to do, friends? Oh! That's the culprit. Look at this. All those camera inputs I was just... well, okay, we found the source of the bug, so now we know how to fix it. We'll make that mistake again. We were going to talk about flaps 3, right? So we did that last flight. It worked out really well for us. I think A320 Sim Pilot YouTuber released a video the next day going into the specifics of why we choose flaps 3 takeoffs and landings, like right after we discussed it, which was amazing timing. So I got to watch that on Sunday. Learned a ton. And one thing I learned is that the standard procedure for a missed approach is when you go to toga power, you retract the flaps by 1 notch. So if you're approaching flaps full and you go misapproach, you go to flaps 3. If you're doing a flaps 3 on your approach and you do misapproach, you go to flaps 2. And the benefit of that when you're going into terrain or need to get to an altitude quickly is that you're going to get much better climbing performance at a lower flap value because you're reducing the overall drag on the airplane. The trade-off is that your stall speeds are higher. So there's that consideration. But looking at this approach where we are looking like we'll be facing terrain on the mist. Why do we go to daytime? So confused. Yeah, it's kind of implied that there is terrain there on the mist, and we do want to get to like almost 4,000 feet relatively quickly by kilo. We will probably want that climb performance. So if the runway is long enough, which will determine here, we'll do flaps 3 as a safety measure. And we'll also save fuel in the process. That was the original reason why we tried flaps 3. Because less drag means less fuel burn. Alright, let's get the METAR. And let's get the other parameters for the runway. Altitude 61 feet on one and 88 on the other, so let's call it 75. Runway heading is 83. Runway conditions will be dry, there's no weather in the area. We're going to do flaps configuration 3. No overweight, we will have reverse thrust. Runway slope is practically 0. Landing distance 3,400 meters. Approach speed, we haven't programmed that in yet, so let's do that now. Click out of this so we don't get that weird error again. And let's go to our approach phase. Again, we got this at 1 Zulu. It's 220 Zulu now. We'll put it in, we'll see if there's an update, but since we have this on hand, we'll just use it. Probably won't be much different. So QNH is 1011. Temperature is 26 degrees. Wind is 90 at 6 knots, not 3 meters per second. Transition altitude is 11,800. Again, a very specific number for transition. See if that transition level 118, yeah. So that's good. Oh, and minimums. We'll do 200 since we could, again, at a lower flap setting, we can definitely make that climb gradient. So 200 feet on the radio. Minimums. And configuration 3, that's the last thing there. So approach speed, you saw that change there. It's a bit higher, so 140. So go ahead and put that in here. Approach speed is 140 knots per the box. And that's it. Let's calculate. Plenty of runway for flaps 3, so that seems to be optimal for this approach. Taking into account the missed approach procedure and the runway length. And again, we get to save a little bit of fuel in the process. Cool. That is all set. Oh yeah, I forgot we can cheat and see if there is updated METAR information, and it is. This was updated to 2 Zulu. So the winds have increased by a few knots, so 8 knots, which is converting from meters per second. QNH is still the same, temperature is a bit different, so let's go ahead and just update the box here. So 27 degrees and 8 knots. 27 and /8 for the wind. Magnitude is the same. Ah, I didn't like that. Okay, we'll just do the whole thing again. 0 at 8. There we go. And anything else you want to pay attention to here? Variable direction, that's fine. Okay, looks good. So I think we're all set, and top of descent is in 80 miles. If we don't get cleared for descent by control by then, we'll just go ahead and let them know that we're ready.
Vietnam 984, Ho control.
Ho Chi Minh Control, Vietnam Airlines 984, ready?
Yes sir, I'm closing now, so please monitor Unicom on 122.8, have a good one.
Over Unicom 122.8, thanks again for the service tonight. Cheers. Vietnam Airlines 984.
Yeah. Vietnam 870, with control. Vietnam 870, making to copy. Vietnam 870, yeah, we are closing now, so please monitor on Unicom 22.8, have a good day.
Alright, so we're over to Unicom now. So yeah, we don't need to worry. We'll just descend on our own volition. But you know what? It was fun having ATC while we had them. And that's probably one of my favorite parts about flying on VATSIM, especially different parts of the world, is that usually the controllers are from the places you're flying to in the sim. So it's very likely that those controllers are living in Vietnam or somewhere in the vicinity of Vietnam. And it's very cool, just kind of interacting with people, other aviation enthusiasts all around the world. It's definitely one of my favorite parts. Still get nervous as hell though. Haven't gotten over that yet, talking on the radios, but it's great practice for when you do it in the real world. Alright, so now that a little bit of the pressure is off, I am going to look up where we're actually going. So we're going to Sanya, China, which is in the Hainan province, on Hainan Island. And I don't know, I mean, from the looks of it, it kind of looks like a tropical version of Dubai, just like the architecture is so dramatic. And I'm very curious to see how it shows up on the sim. Because it looks like very highly developed. As I mentioned, like the hotels that kind of show up when, like Mandarin Oriental, the Edition, the Ritz-Carlton. A good friend of mine works for Edition Hotels. It is ridiculous. A ridiculous line. I think it's owned by Marriott, but it's their super high-end brand. And yeah, I mean, I'm on the website now. It kind of looks like the Maldives. The way they have various villas just on the water. It's absolutely stunning. So very curious if it's easy for English speakers to travel to, but yeah. Yeah, it looks nuts. I guess if you took Macau, take away the casinos, they may very well have casinos, but take away the casinos and kind of just put a bunch of beach resorts. It's kind of the vibe I'm getting from these photos. Alright. About 60 miles now. New Zealand ATC is coming online. So Tower at Auckland and Tower at Wellington is online. Oh, fun. And Anchorage Center is online as well. So we will be going towards that airspace. We have quite a few stops between here and Anchorage. Yeah, actually Anchorage is 10 flights from now. But on the way we'll be hitting Macau, Taipei, Shanghai, Incheon, Tokyo, and then some obscure airports in the North Pacific, because we need to find a land bridge to cross back to the US. Because a big feature of the stream series, my friends, is that we don't do flights that are significantly more than 2 hours. So I try to stay to an average of 2 hours per hop. And you can imagine when you want to cross an ocean like the Pacific, you can't really do it in 2 hours unless you get creative. And since we're flying exclusively in the A320, we also had to find airports along the way that could accommodate landing an A320 and taking off an A320 with passengers on it. So that really restricted where we could go and made routing very challenging and fun. But you see these kind of obscure islands between these large peninsulas and these land masses on the way to Australia, sorry, on the way to Alaska rather. There are a few options, and we were able to find places to land that were within 2 hours of each other that were appropriate for an A320. So that will be a very interesting part of our series when we get to the North Pacific. And then once we cross back into North America and we get back down towards the United States, we will probably have consistent ATC coverage and busy airspace for the remainder of our trip back to Newark, New Jersey, since we'll be flying mostly East Coast evening times. So ATC in North America will be lit up like a Christmas tree. But for now, we're checking out resort islands in China. Tough life. Alright, 30 miles. We'll get 11,000 feet programmed into the FMC, just so that we're ready. And that is below transition, if I recall. And if that is the case, once we begin our descent, we can just go to local QNH. Yeah, it is. And that QNH, coming back here, is 1011. Okay, so we have left Vietnam behind us. Did not even notice we're over water now. Yeah, and right around here is where we would have lost ATC coverage anyway, so we had it for most of the way, which is nice. Alright, 15 miles. So we are about, let's see, it's March 15th. I think Monday, the 21st, is when the first folks in the Cross the Pond westbound lottery will get their time slots to sign up for routes. And anybody's guess at this point if we'll be able to get a slot. There's only space for 1,000 pilots, and I think the event has grown so popular that more than 1,000 pilots will sign up. If you're not familiar with Cross the Pond, it's a twice yearly event that's held on the VATSIM ATC network, where in the spring we fly westbound from Europe, generally Europe, to North America, and then in the fall we do eastbound from North America to Europe. I've never done the event before. The challenge is I fly the A320 exclusively, and in Microsoft Flight Simulator there isn't an Airbus airframe to this level of fidelity that can actually do oceanic crossings. The A320 has a very limited range, and I did some pre-research on what routes could be done with the A320, assuming no passengers, which isn't very realistic, but let's say it's a ferry flight or something. But you could do Dublin to Montreal, I think, which is the shortest possible route on the current roster for westbound. So if I can get that, I'll probably stick with the 320, but otherwise probably a week from now, if I do get a slot and it's not short. Sorry, let's just start our descent. And thrust idle, open descent. And we'll get local QNH back on here. That was 1011. Alright, that's all set. Yeah, but if I somehow get Dublin to Montreal, I could probably swing the 320 on that event, which would be a lot of fun. Otherwise, I'm going to learn the Heavy Division 787 Boeing, but it's a very different kind of aircraft, and I'll probably have to do a few practice flights next week to figure it all out.
From the flight deck, ladies and gentlemen, as you may have noticed, we have begun our initial descent down to our destination. Now would be a good time to wrap up any business you need to take care of as we prepare for our approach. If you are up, once you return to your seat, we ask that you remain seated until the aircraft arrives safely at the gate. Flight attendants, please prepare the cabin for arrival.
Alright, at this point, one thing we didn't program were the rad navs, and there were plenty for this approach that we'll want to pay attention to. So we'll just choose the relevant ones. So here for the missed approach, we know we'll want the kilo NDB. Put that programmed in there. Entry out of range. Interesting. I'll just put the frequency then, 305. There we go. And then we want the Sierra Yankee X-ray VOR. Put that in here in frequency 2. 112.5, and that tracks 112.5. And those are the two most relevant for us. There are others here. Hotel Uniform Tango. There's also Whiskey Lima. But I don't think we'll need those for our purposes. And the ILS India Kilo Kilo is already in there, 109.5, so that's all good. So we'll get NDB and ADF. Sorry, that's backwards. ADF and VOR. And if we're on the ground at 2:50 Zulu, I will get to bed at a decent hour tonight, friends. Which is good. I actually have to commute tomorrow, God forbid. At this point we can program low braking. We did check that we had enough runway. And I think this is new. I don't remember the braking setting showing here on the PFD. So that might be a recent addition for the experimental build. I am seeing more and more air traffic coming online in Southeast Asia. Some action in the Philippines right now. Oh, and this is pretty cool. I didn't notice this before. But Kai Tak Airport, let me just see if this is the airport I think it is. Yeah. Okay, so I just noticed that so Hong Kong has, their current international airport is away from the city. It's on an island made from landfill. It is gorgeous, modern, massive, and the trip between the airport and the city is just like a scenic joy. I've been there twice. But the old airport is right in the city. I think it branches off of Kowloon. Which is across from, I guess, Hong Kong Island. but I think it used to be known as like one of the most dangerous approaches in the world because you're getting like within feet of buildings and urban environments. But it looks like on VATSIM, even though this airport's been closed for over 20 years, 30 years even maybe. When did it close? Sorry, I want to get this right. 1998, so 20 over, let's say 25 years, give or take. But there are controllers online. I see towers online at that closed airport, so you could still fly there in the sim if you wanted to and do that crazy approach. Maybe we should. I wasn't planning to go to Hong Kong. I was going to go to Macau, but maybe we should check out that approach. We'll see. That's a fun little feature. Metatarsal currents. Approaching Sagsu, and let's just take stock of our next altitude restriction as we approach the star. Alright, so let's call it 4,000, and we'll want to slow down to 220 knots. We can do that manually, or we can do it via the approach phase. And let's see, oh no, let's go right, sorry. Our green dot speed is 205. So if we activate the approach before India Alpha Foxtrot, we'll be within the speed restriction and we'll be able to start configuring the aircraft. So that'll be the plan. Also, one thing we'll want to do for our configuration 3 landing is to override the warning system flap 3 warning. So we've set it in the McDo. This is a separate system from what I learned since last time. And that will prevent, I think, ECAM warnings for not being flaps full on landing. Alright, we're picking up the ADF and the VOR. There's a Geggy. Alright, let's get constraints on so we can see what we're looking at. And let's actually see how complete the constraints are. Because we played with this last time using managed speed, managed altitude, kind of got us all the way in. And it looks like a little incomplete. Speed restrictions are incomplete, and instead of kind of going through all the trouble of getting it all programmed, we'll just do it manually tonight. If I felt we had more time, we could program it all in so we could actually fly a fully managed approach, but it's fine. And since we're doing an ILS, once we're on the localizer and glide slope, we'll be golden. We're approaching 11,000 feet with plenty of time to spare. Speed alt star. You can see mountains in the distance, and there's land. Yep. Should be a nice approach. Alright, so once we cross Agegi, we'll get ourselves down to 4,000. And then when we cross Alpha, we'll get ourselves down to 2960. Or I guess 3,000. That's very precise. And we want to intercept the ILS at 2300. Alright, so let's get down to 4,000. We'll do managed descent at this point for this next one. And since we're just about 10,000 feet, we'll get the landing lights on. Should have set TCAS to below before, but we'll do it now. Everything else looks fine for now. So let's just see if we'll get down to altitude in time. We'll need about 4 minutes. Yeah, and I think we have enough time. It looks like we do have altitude restrictions pretty consistently after this. 2300, so I think we'll just once we cross that waypoint, we'll just get down to 2300 and intercept the localizer. So at this point, I'll turn the landing system on, get that ready. We are tracking the ILS already, 23 nautical miles away. Let's go ahead and do the approach checklist. The briefing is confirmed. ECAM status is checked. Landing distance we confirmed. Low braking. Seatbelts are going to come on now. Bow ref is set. Minimums are set. And engine mode is set to normal. Approach checklist is complete. Hello, sir. That was a very enthusiastic hello. How are you doing tonight? Alright, once we cross this next waypoint, I think we'll activate the approach phase just to bleed off some speed and get ourselves down a bit. I think at this point we'll just get down to 2300 and let the managed altitude direct us as we pass the waypoints. Oh, nice. Yeah. So I aspire to get my PPL as well, although I haven't actually gotten into a plane yet. So I've been doing casual ground study, barely even qualifies for ground study. But we've been following a lot of A320 pilots online, and was able to find like pretty cool resources like procedure documents, which if you kind of Google standard operating procedures for the A320, you can get them. And it'll kind of walk you through all the systems, all the procedures, and just over time, just start picking it up. I can't claim to be an expert in the 320, but in the flight sim on the fly-by-wire mod, I can get up and I can get down. All right, let's activate our approach. Start decelerating down to green dot speed. We're a bit high for where we want to be. So I'll start deploying flaps. Speed check flaps 1. Yeah, I think I could, but that's largely because the 320 comes with an auto land feature. So if I can program in an ILS, it can do everything for me. So if I had to manually fly it in, would not have the feel. I have good peripherals, but I doubt it feels like flying a real 320. But auto landing, yeah, I can handle that. I'm going to deploy some speed brakes, try to get our rate of descent a bit faster. I'm going to arm the approach. Autopilot 2 is coming online. And let's remind ourselves what the climb out for the missed approach is. It's 1970, so let's call it 2000, and we'll just get that program to the box in case we have to go missed. Ah, thanks for the follow. Appreciate it. Yeah, it's true. It's not like, you know, if someone had a stroke in a 172, I'd be screwed. I would not survive that. All right, we're established on the localizer. Look at that. So speed checked, flaps 2. I'm going to retract the speed brakes, because if we're established already, we can just glide in on the glide slope all the way down. It's going to be a 3-degree glide, so we don't need the speed brakes for that. At flaps 2, gear is coming down, spoilers are armed. Getting our lights on. Oh yeah, I heard about the red button. That's pretty cool. I didn't know it detects the closest airport. That's really sweet. Looks like we have a visual on the runway just through the clouds here. Speed checked, flaps. Actually, we'll stay flaps 2 for a little bit. We got some time. We're doing a flaps 3 landing, so don't need to be in a rush. Last time I configured too early, the plane behind me had to do a go around. I felt really bad. Sanya Phoenix traffic, Vietnam Airlines 9084 on 10-mile final ILS runway 8. Sanya traffic. Alright, landing checklist. Well, not quite yet. Not quite yet. So remember, this is a resort destination. I don't think Flight Simulator has programmed in the city using photogrammetry, so it might not look as impressive as it does in real life, but we'll see. Oh, I am flying to Sanya, China. It's on Hainan Island in
2,500.
In Southeast Asia. We departed from Ho Chi Minh City in Vietnam. And Sanya looked interesting because it's like a resort town, like a bunch of luxury resorts and hotels, Ritz-Carlton, Edition. It looked insane, and it kind of looks like Dubai, but like in a tropical beach setting versus desert. So I wanted to check it out in the sim. We're flying around the world slowly, 2 hours at a time. So from here, on my next flight, we'll be flying from Sanya to Macau, which is known for their casinos and gambling. Alright. Speed check, flaps 3. And landing checklist. Cabin crews advised. Auto throttles and speed. Auto brake is set to low. ECAM memo. Landing no blue. Landing checklist complete. Alright, we look like a direct headwind. So at about... let's have some fun. Let's go at 1,000 feet. We'll get the autopilot off and we'll hand fly this in the rest of the way. Yeah, so it doesn't look like the crazy architecture of this place is coming through in the sim. This just looks like it's generated from satellite data, which is fine. But definitely Google Sanya, China. It looks nuts. Yeah, Flight Sim, if you're flying VFR, autopilot coming off, if you're flying VFR, Microsoft Flight Simulator is the way to go because it's just like, it's so realistic. Alright, stay on that glide slope. Feels a bit bumpy. Oop, there was some pop in there. Alright, the PAPI lights are coming into view. We are still on the glide slope for the most part. Control our descent rate a bit. We want to stay around 700 feet per minute to stay on that glide slope. See, we're dropping below it a little bit. Let's pull that up a bit. A little left of center line.
400. 100 above. Minimum.
Continue. A little high. I think we're fine. We got plenty of runway.
50, 40,
pull back.
30, 20, retard. 5.
Pull back, pull back, pull back. Reverse green, decel. .70 knots, rolling out. So we'll get the next taxiway to the left. If we get slow enough. Yeah, I think we're good. We can follow this off. Alright, that wasn't too bad. That felt pretty good. I'll have to check the descent rate later. Oh, man threaded. That's very astute observation. But story with the registration. FBW is, I think, referring to Airbus fly-by-wire. Is the D prefix what makes it German? Because I'm not sure if the developers are based in Germany or not. But I think that's why the registration is that way. It's just a call out to the fly-by-wire team. I'm not sure if I can change that, honestly. That's very astute. Never really thought about it that way. Alright, let's do our after landing checklist. Flaps are coming retracted. Spoilers are disarmed. APU, let's turn that sucker on. 1, 2, 3. Got our lights set here. That looks good. Radar and predictive wind shear system are coming off. And we'll do a 2-engine taxi, because I don't feel like going through that procedure, and we'll keep the packs on, because I bet you it's hot where we are. Hey, Menthredad, thank you for the follow. Really appreciate it. All right, so I think we said we were going to take stand 105. Since we don't have ATC coverage here, we'll just clear ourselves to the stand. And where did we end up? Alpha 5. Okay, that's where we thought. So we'll make a left-hand turn and we'll look for stand 105. This is not a custom scenery airport, so they may not have stand numbers. But we'll take Alpha, maybe to make a turn at Bravo 6, and it'll be roughly straight in from there. So we'll just keep our eye out. All right, give a little power, and we'll use the tiller to steer us onto the taxiway. And as we roll, I'll just clean up here, turn the landing system off, flight director off, constraints coming off. All right. Yeah, this is definitely one of the procedurally generated airports. You can tell because there's just not a ton of detail. But again, when we get to Macau, custom scenery galore, so it should look gorgeous. Take a look at our livery one last time. This will be the last time we're flying Vietnam Airlines. It's customary on this round-the-world trip to fly the national air carrier of the country we're leaving. So we left Vietnam today. We'll be in China Southern, I think, next time when we head to Macau. We'll be in China Southern for a while. Bravo 6. I haven't seen taxiway markers. So I guess no one likes flying to Sanya. We'll just use this to approximate Bravo 6. So after the second grass oval, I guess. So not this one, but the next one. Start slowing down. And that looks like a lot of dirt in front of us. So yeah, I think we'll just wing this ourselves now. Let's just find a jetway and just drive towards it, because yeah, sometimes when the procedurally generated airports get the taxiways wrong, they get it really wrong. So let's just scooch on over here. And all right, we'll follow this center line to one of those jetways over there. Yeah, this just makes my excitement for getting to the custom airport in Macau all the more heightened. And usually Flight Simulator makes it obvious which one they want me to park in, because they have all the services. It looks like that one. Yeah, so we'll pull into that jetway. But these red boxes don't even really line up. Oh, jeez. But I think the yellow marker is fine. So we'll slow down. We'll start our turn. We'll get the lights off so we don't blind anybody. And pull it in nice and straight. Even though this line isn't straight, but we'll just follow the reference of this marshaller here. I'm going to go in at around 5 knots. That sight picture looks good enough, so I'll stop there. Parking brakes are on. APU is available. Get the APU bleed on. We'll shut those engines off. Engine 2 and Engine 1 coming off. Seatbelt signs are off. And we are here in Sanya. That's, oh, jet bridge is automatically connecting. That's pretty cool. That's wrong, though. It's definitely not connected. That's definitely not. No, that's not right. Anyway, let's do our parking checklist, shall we? Electric pump is off because we didn't need it. APU bleed is on. Engines are off. Seatbelts are off. Exterior lights can come off now. So strobes off. Beacons off because our engines are off. We'll keep nav and logo lights on for now. Fuel pumps can come off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Parking brake is set. Parking checklist is complete. So at this point, we can assume AC to standby, get the TCAS off. We can assume the passengers have deplaned, and we can secure the aircraft and get this thing back to cold and dark. So the IRSs can come off. Boom, boom, and boom. Oxygen coming off. Landing flap configuration off. APU bleed can come off because no one's on the plane anymore. Connect external power is on, so we could get the APU off. Nav and logo lights off. So no smoking sign. Emergency lights are disarmed. Get the integrated lights off. And we'll get the rest of the plane shut down while we wait for the APU to spool down. This is where I tend to go crazy. I think every stream I kind of apologize for being a real stickler to what I read about real-world procedures. They turn, I believe some airlines turn the lights down as a part of shutdown procedures just to extend the life of the screens, if only by a few seconds or minutes per flight. Now you can tell me if you think that's true, if you've heard the same, if you've heard differently, but this has started a sim habit where I literally just turn all the dials down to save the screens. I get the radios off because it's just fun to flip the switch. ATC on standby, TCAS on standby, get the integrated lights down. Rudder trim is reset. That all looks good to me. And of course turn the iPad off because we want to save iPad battery. And once that APU shuts down, we'll disconnect from external power, shut the batteries off, and we'll be good to go. In the meantime, just enjoy this meager scenery. Again, you should definitely Google this place. It looks awesome on the interwebs. It looks totally mediocre here, but it looks like a really awesome place to visit if you have the money and the means. And for whatever reason, it takes the APU forever to shut down. So if you guys are still sticking around for the APU to shut down, much appreciated. Because you know, it is satisfying to like hear the clunk when the thing powers down. And there we go, the APU just shut down. And here we go. Are you ready for the clunk? Here it goes. Oh yeah, there it is. Get our batteries off. And we are cold and dark, friends. This thing is shut down, and we are at our destination. Thanks so much again for joining us on this quick flight tonight. It was a lot of fun. We had good ATC coverage in the first half. So if you want to hear my sorry attempt at radio calls for IFR clearance and stuff like that, feel free to check out the beginning of the video. The last half was pretty chill. Next time we'll be heading to Macau, and hopefully we'll get some more ATC coverage then as well. But until then, fly safe, stay safe, and this is Mike November Whiskey signing off. Thanks, Main Thread. I really appreciate the support, and thank you for joining us tonight. And feedback is welcome. I'm happy to adjust my my style if it makes it more entertaining. But I hope to see you next time.